So we will be waiting just a little bit before we see the Canadian teams in action, but they will be the theme of this edition of Johnny on the Spot. And Johnny gets the best intros or titles or whatever we call them for segments going at NHL Network. You do. But
best can be an adjective I might not choose to use, but yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, here's your first question, Johnny. Which general manager is sitting on the hottest seat entering this postseason from the North Division?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, the temperature's always pretty high in Canada, but I think because Toronto and Edmonton will be pretty solid favorites heading into the first round, it would be one of those two general managers. If they were not to win, there'd be a lot of questions asked. Kenny Holland just got to Edmonton, so I don't think it's going to be him. I think it's got to be Kyle Dubas of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's been around for a few years. He's done a lot of work trading for bringing in veteran guys, Wayne Simmons, Joe Thornton, Bogosian, went out and got Nick Foligno, Ben Hutton, Stefan Nason, David Rittich. Like, he did some work. He knows this is the year. The Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won a playoff series since when, Jackie?
Oh, don't
2004,
just leave me alone
I think it
about
is.
it. It's
Been a long time.
17 years.
They have this window, and the window is this year. Freddie Anderson's a UFA, Zach Hyman's a UFA, plus all those older players as well. It has to be Kyle Dubas, because if the Toronto Maple Leafs do not advance out of the first round, it will be mayhem in the city of Toronto. And a lot of people asking Kyle Dubas some really tough questions, as well as the players. So for me, it's got to be Kyle Dubas.
Yeah, I think it's a good answer, because for a long time, what have we been saying about Toronto? Well, they're really good, but they keep running into these powerhouses in the first round. And not necessarily as an excuse, but it's always sort of a cachet. People are always bringing it up when talking about the Leafs' first-round exits. They don't have that excuse this year, because they have dominated that division all season long, haven't really been challenged. The only other guy I would probably bring up is Bergevin, because he's been in Montreal for so long, made so many moves in the offseason. If they don't, at least give the Toronto Maple Leafs a challenge or a test, do you think he's somebody that could be on the hot seat, Johnny?
Well, his contract is up after next year, and that's a rarity that in Canada you go into your last year of contract as a GM. But, I mean, I think with the injuries and the fact that Toronto is a flat-out better team, it's a kind of comfortable out for Marc Bergevin, because look at the guys he signed. Toffoli's had an amazing year. Josh Anderson was fantastic. Jake Allen was just voted the team MVP, and Corey Perry gave great production per dollar. Now, Eric Staal hasn't been great there yet, but most of Bergevin's moves have turned out to be pretty good. Just the team, hasn't played that well. They're not as good as Toronto. So, yeah, you're right, Jackie, because of the reality of the Montreal organization, how long he's been there. But I think if they lose in 5 or 6 games to Toronto, I don't think that's a result that would cause anyone to say, well, that's the reason we got to talk about Marc Bergevin's future.
We can talk about Winnipeg, too, but we don't have time. Let's get to our next question for this edition of Johnny on the Spot. I mentioned it in talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've been far and away the best team in this division. I thought maybe the Jets would challenge them at some point. It never happened. So here's my question. Which team poses the biggest threat to the Toronto Maple Leafs to get to the Final Four?
I think it's the Edmonton Oilers. I think it's Edmonton for 3 reasons. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and
Connor McDavid.
Mike Smith. Amazingly enough, Connor McDavid. Yeah, never a bad guess with 97. But amazingly enough, that Mike Smith might be the most consistent, proven goaltender outside of Connor Hellebuyck in the North, playing in the playoffs. Like, I think he plays against Toronto. It's Jack Campbell. You're like, okay, well, he's done more than him and has been better than him. If it's Freddie Anderson, even Jake Allen, or even Carey Price for that matter. So I think you put those guys together, and what McDavid and Draisaitl have been able to do this year, that is an issue, because those guys alone are enough to steal series. I think Toronto's the best team in the North. They proved it all year long. But if the stars align and those guys get hot, they alone can win a series.
Matthews versus McDavid. Fans would love that in Canada in a playoff series.
Please.
That is for sure. And speaking of McDavid, 104 points. It's ridiculous. I still can't believe it's real, but here's a fun one for you. Set me the over-under, Johnny, for McDavid's point total in the first round against the Jets. I mean, where do you draw the line? How many points is this guy capable of?
It's such a good question, because you have to consider how long you think the series is going to go. If you think Evans is going to win, is it going to be 4, 5, 6, 7? I'm setting the over-under at But, Jackie, can you believe it? 11.5 points. 11.5 points in what will be a 5 or 6 game series. He's going to average at least 2 per game. I do this because of a couple of reasons. One, he's Connor McDavid, and he averaged 2 points, just under 2 points per game this entire year. But look what he did against Winnipeg. 22 points this season. He has lit them up. So I think Evans is going to win this series. And if they play 6 games, maybe he gets over it. If they play 5, you're going to ask for 12 points in 5 games, 2.4 per game. That's an awful lot, even for Connor McDavid. So I think 11.5 is a number to make you think.
Okay, I'd probably take the over because it's just the way the season has gone for Connor McDavid. One more, and it's a hypothetical. The Leafs are up 2-1 heading into Game 4 against Montreal, which happens to be the second half of a back-to-back. You're Sheldon Keefe. Who are you starting? You get no other information. Did they lose Game 3? I don't know. Who do you start?
Okay. 2-1, Leafs heading into Game 4. I'm starting Jack Campbell. I want to get that lead. I want to be up 3-1. I want to wrap this series up and not have Montreal believe they can hang around, not have the pressure mount on my team, which is already feeling a ton to get through this first round. If Jack Campbell has been our best goalie this year, and he has, then I'm putting him back in. So at 2-1, Jack Campbell. But, Jackie, if it's 3-love, I'm thinking Freddie Anderson. Because maybe Jack Campbell's fought his own health issues this year, and he's had some nagging injuries as he's gone along. And get Freddie Anderson a game at 3-love. Then I think about Freddie Anderson, but at 2-1, too important. I go Jack Campbell, back-to-back Jack, and see what he comes up with.
I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting to hear tennis like 3-love terminology in this segment, but here we are. I do like the thinking, though. It makes a whole lot of sense. We'll see what the situation is going into Game 4. But no question, I mean, Jack Campbell has certainly earned to start the series and to play until it no longer makes sense, which may never happen. I mean, he may be the Leafs #1 all the way through. So we shall see. And it's a good thing they have Jack Campbell, because could you imagine if he wasn't able to step up when Freddie Anderson went down to injury? We could be having a completely different discussion about the Toronto Maple Leafs right now.
It'd be Michael Hutchinson and Craig Anderson or Devin Dubnyk or like some other guy, David Riddick. Yeah, it would not feel the same. But I think Jack Campbell statistically has kind of been a top 5 goalie this year.
Wow.
So top 5 goaltending with that roster in this division makes them the favorite, pretty significant favorite to get to the semifinals. Don't get too excited, Jackie, but it's true. Oh, listen, being born and raised a Leaf fan, I learned long ago never to get excited until the games are done. And it hasn't happened very often in my life. So this has been a great segment. Thank you, Johnny.